Hi there, I'm Duncan Chapman. I'm a composer and a sound artist, and I'm working with Birmingham Contemporary Music Group on their tree project. And I'm here with Viv.
Hello, I'm Viv. I'm a member of Birmingham Trees for Life. We plant trees in the city of Birmingham, and to date we've planted about 90,000 trees. But I'm also a sculptor and I work in stone, but much of my work is inspired by nature.
So Viv, we're here in the woods, but where are we? Where is this place?
Well, this is Sutton Park.
Right.
It's about 7 miles from Birmingham city centre. It's 2,400 acres in size, and it has a variety of habitats, including woodlands, where we are today.
So the reason we came to these fantastic woods is to collect things, and I'm particularly interested in collecting sounds. So the sounds of the wood, the sounds you can hear, the birds, but also the sounds of the trees, the sounds we can make with the trees, and maybe some of the sounds that are a bit surprising and hidden that you might not normally hear. So Viv, what kind of things would you be collecting?
Well, I think I'd be collecting things that we stand on, things that are not noticed, you know, things that you take for granted, seeds and fruits that have died and are on the ground, and I pick them up and have a good look at them. And often I make sculpture inspired by very, very small things, and sometimes very tiny things I multiply up to great big sizes, and people don't actually recognise what they are until they're reminded.
That's really interesting to me, because I'm very interested in the idea of hidden sounds, you know, trying to find sounds here that have always been here but nobody's noticed. So that hidden world underground. So thinking about using a sound microscope kind of thing. So that's partly what I'm going to be doing.
Well, the other thing I'm doing is I'm collecting views. I'm collecting the visual, what I'm seeing. I'm collecting that and putting it in my memory, and it will come out in another way when I make some sculpture.
Fantastic. And we might actually take some things away with us. So we might collect some leaves, we might collect some twigs. I'm particularly looking for bits of things that have particularly interesting sounds that I can carry, that I could collect together into a collection of things that I might want to play to make music with.
So Duncan, here we are in front of some trees. What do you make of these? What do they remind you of?
Well, I mean, there are two sets of things. One is the shapes and the textures, but I was really struck by this one here, which to me looks like a sea serpent. I can see its head here, and I can see its undulating, wavy tail that disappears into the distance.
Well, for me, I think with the silver birch, I see an abstract pattern here of smooth and rough and holes and smooth and rough. And it does seem to me to make a perfect pattern, but it's made by nature and not by man.
That's fascinating, yes. This tree is very interesting though.
What would it be in music, that tree?
Well, for me, this tree over here has a real definite sort of growing up and stepping to the side. So I'd imagine that this tree, if it was a piece of music, would sort of climb up and it would step to one side, it would climb up again and step. So a series of rising things and things that stay the same. And it might be interesting for you if you went down to your local park or woods to see what kind of shapes and patterns you could find in the trees. You might want to draw them, or you could take photographs of them. Some of them might be like animals and things, like we saw this sea serpent, and others could be just, you're just enjoying seeing the shapes and the patterns in them.
So Duncan, we found a tree that's lying on the ground here. See if you can make some music.
Well, this tree is fantastic because obviously I think it fell a while ago, but it's got these great branches poking out. So I found a stick on the floor, which was the first thing. And I've been exploring some of the sounds it makes, and some of these branches, that one I particularly like. If I get my ear really close to it, it sounds fantastic. I really hear a definite note. So I've got my recording machine here, and if I put my headphones on, I can hold this quite close, so I get the sound as if I've got my ear right up against it. So a real close-up sound. So I really like those three. So I think I'm going to see if I can make a pattern out of them. So maybe... which I think works really well. Maybe we could find...
Fantastic.
There's some other similar bits of branch, and maybe we could get together with a few more people and play this log together.
The Log Concerto.
That would be fantastic. We could either play it here or we could record it. So we don't necessarily need to have a fancy machine. So Viv, I discovered that if I put my ear really close to this one, and actually if I just rub my hand over it, I get a really interesting texture. It's like a really smooth sound. Yep. And it's a bit different if I use my hand, actually, if I use a stick. So if you want to try that one, let's try that with a stick. And obviously if I wanted to record it with my machine is a bit like having my ear really close. So if I put it really close with my machine, I can record it as if I had my ear right up against it. So this pine tree has a very different kind of bark to the tree we were looking and listening to earlier. And I was wondering whether it would sound really different. So I'm going to try rubbing this one with my hand and get my ear really close. I wonder, could you record some different kinds of sounds of bark of trees? You might want to record them on a phone or on a tablet, or you might have another kind of way of recording those. But Viv, what does this suggest to you as a visual artist?
I think the first thing to say is how many colours are in here. And then also how deep it is. I mean, it's not a regular form, is it? It's very irregular with deep parts and smooth parts and high parts and low parts. Fantastic. So that's what my first reaction is. So you could do a bark rubbing, holding a bit of paper against the bark, pressing it down and getting images on that piece of paper. And bear in mind, not all trees are the same. They'll all give you a different result.
So what I thought I would like to try and do is record the sound of the leaves from the point of view as if I was lying on my back with my ears really close to them. So I've put my recording machine down here and I'm going to turn it on, and if I make a sound around with the leaves, the sound should sound like it's travelling around my head. So I'm going to use a couple of different things. I thought I might rustle the leaves with my hand, but also I found some fir cones and I was going to experiment with dropping them, see if I can get some singular sounds to add to the sound of the rustle of the leaves. Okay. So one other way I thought of recording the sounds from the tree, a bit like before when we were putting our ears up against it to listen, would be to use this. And this is a homemade one, but this is a contact microphone. And I'm going to stick that into a crack in this tree. And what it will do will pick up the vibrations inside the tree and across the surface, but it won't record the sound of outside in the environment.
Well, so these are some of the things I've found today. Have a look at the bark. It's often on the ground, and no bark is the same, even from the same tree. It varies in colour. Then different trees have different bark. Here's one in white, and there's lovely colours here of blues and greens. So you can have a look for bark, or lichen on branches that are on the ground. You can collect those, or even just little pieces of fir from the pine tree. This one's been around a lot longer on the ground. These two have just come down, but they're different colours. That's what's important. They're not all the same. So here I've found some pine cones just in this little bit of Sutton Park, but you might well be able to find different pine cones. like this, or like this, or like this. So they're all cones lying around in your local park. And then the leaves. Look how the leaves have got different structures and how they got different feel to them and a different texture and different shapes to them, and sometimes very different colours. They're all green, you would think, but they're very different greens. So just taking a pine cone like this, I've actually made a pine cone this big, 2.5, 3 feet big, using just the pattern as you see it here. Just look at it very closely and look at the lovely patterns on it and how it's got diamond shapes all interlocked. And then you could actually make your own little pattern here, your own little sculpture of pine cones and dead wood and some leaves to support it. So you leave your own little mark in the forest.
So we've had a fantastic afternoon here in Sutton Park, and I've really enjoyed finding some extraordinary hidden sounds and collecting those things to make music with. What about you, Viv?
Well, I think you should go to your local park and collect the images of the park, the images of the shapes, the grandeur of the trees, the size of the trees, but also what's beneath your feet. Small things, the pine cones, the seeds, the leaves.
So we'd like to encourage you to go out, use your eyes, your ears, and also your nose to see what you can find in your environment.